Om Namo Narayan.
Om Namo Narayan.
Om Namo Narayan.
We all know what day is tomorrow in the Indian tradition? Do we? Do any of us?
Checking out online, but that was my first exposure to it.
Well, tomorrow is the single most important day for not only worshippers of Shiva, but anybody in any of the Indian knowledge traditions, esoteric traditions, music, shamanistic, alchemy, anything that is, let's say, hidden from normal view. Tomorrow is the day that things that are hidden become revealed. We call tomorrow Maha Shivaratri. So Shivaratri actually takes place 12 times during the year. This takes place on the 14th dark lunar fortnight of the moon. Once a year is Mahashivaratri, and Mahashivaratri takes place on the 14th dark lunar fortnight in the Indian month of Magh. So that is tomorrow. Today is the tryodashi, which is the 13th dark night of the moon, and this is a day that we do preparations for tomorrow. The observations, the ritual observations and the practice and the puja and the worship of Shiva and the request and the quest for secret knowledge, esoteric knowledge, hidden knowledge takes place after midnight, which reflects the major vow that is made on this day, which is the vow of not sleeping. So the ardent devotees of Shiva, they spend the night awake, doing rituals, singing, doing bhajans, kirtans, talking, satsang, anything to stay awake. And then at dawn, the fourth and final puja of Shivaratri is performed, and the vrat of staying up all night is completed. But during this time, of course, this is when this is considered to be, in the tradition, the darkest of all the nights of the moon. So it is quiet, it's silent, and there's one other very important aspect, because we can speak about Mahashivaratri in the context of the conversation that we are making about speech. On Mahashivaratri, the Visarga, do you remember from last week I spoke about Visarga? The Visarga is reduced. The Visarga is the echo or the mirror syllable. For example, when if you would say Shiva, you would say Shiva. So the Visarga of is a ha, but not a full ha, almost a half ha, which is a reflection of the Now, I discussed this, I went over this a little bit last week. Does anybody remember this this discussion about the Visarga? Yeah? Okay. Because I'm going to tell you a curious thing about this syllable that is an echo. You could think of the moon as an echo or a reflection of the sun. After all, it's not the moon's light that we're looking at, it's the sun's light. And even in a non-scientific, non-astronomical environment, in a mythological environment, in an environment of analogies, we can also see that the moon is reflecting the sun. We know this from the positions of the moon and the phases of the moon. So, the moon has, well, there's described 16 kalas of the moon. You could think of them as phases, but they're not proper phases in the sense that we measure the month. In the measurement of the month, there's basically a maximum of 15. The 16th is considered the moon that stands behind, that exists in potential behind all the changes of the moon. And this is relating to the Visarga. The sun, in this analogy, is the anuswar. It's the tension that exists between the subject and the object. So when we denote in script, in notation, the Visarga is two dots, one on top of the other. Curiously enough, this is the same in Chinese calligraphy, where the sun and the moon are represented by these two dots. So that would indicate that the dark night of the 14th, being the darkest night of the year, that would have the Visarga at its weakest, and the subject, which is Shiva, the consciousness, at its purest and strongest. So that's why on this particular night, which is tomorrow night, Shiva is worshipped, and esoteric practices and knowledge is very much sought after.
It is that kind of marathon quality to it, where one's endurance is a question, but one is so supported in the atmosphere of intense devotional singing, typically, that one's buoyed up, and the joy that comes at the conclusion is really quite powerful.
Yeah, that's right. Also, coffee helps. I'm a big devotee of coffee.
Yeah, my realization was that cappuccino was originally made by monks.
Is one expected to stay up the remainder of that day and then you go to sleep again that night? Is that how it typically works?
Or does everyone get a nap at like
no, you can
4 a.m.?
No, you stay up all night, you wait for the sun to rise, and then after that, anytime you want to take a nap, take a nap. It's just to get through the night.
Right.
And of course, for meditation, this is the single best night of the year, without a question. If you can find well, from midnight till 6 a.m., it shouldn't be too difficult to find a quiet place. But this is really the night of meditation and practice. And it's also not a night that requires a high degree of specialized skill in performing rituals, in reciting mantras, in any of these kinds of things, because there is a story about Shivaratri, which is perhaps the most common story about Shivaratri in its various forms. And I'll briefly just tell you the story so you have an idea that you will have a great deal of freedom in your observations.